everybody, Captain Dave Schneider, It's a Guide's Life, coming to you from northern Michigan. Happy New Year. Happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, and Happy New Year. Congratulations. Great news. If you're watching this, you made it to 2020. Who knew? Listen, I hope everybody had a really, really good holiday season. I hope you had a great Christmas time. You got to spend some time with family and whatnot, I hope, for you. Joanna and I we really had a very good time. We had some really positive things happening right before, in the early part of December, and so life is good, and we're excited. I still do not have my boat back, guys, but I've decided now it's time to press on and keep moving. I am very hopeful that I will have it before maybe the third week in January here. That's kind of what I'm thinking it may work out to be. So that's what's going on with the boat. However, a lot of you do not look for these videos to talk about that boat situation that I've been dealing with for so long. What you do want to know is what's going on Lake Okeechobee. Well, it just so happens I've been out on Lake Okeechobee a little bit, and I do have some things to talk to you about. Now, I want to say this. I got a really good, I had a new subscriber yesterday or day before yesterday sent me a message and said, Captain Dave, love the content. Could you give us some tips or give us an idea on what we need to know about running around on Okeechobee if we've never been there? And that's exactly what I'm going to do. And I put together some notes and whatnot, and I'm going to shoot that tomorrow. Or actually, I'll probably shoot it. No, I think really, anyway, it'll be up tomorrow. You can expect it late afternoon tomorrow. And to give you an idea, hey, and I'm going to try and break it down by lake level. You know, if the lake is at this level, you can do these things, you can go these places, and kind of create a basic template that you can look at and say, well, okay, now if the lake level is dropping to here, now these are the things you got to watch out for. You can no longer do this, that, and the other thing. So that's coming. I thought that was a great idea for a video this time of year. Okeechobee's heating up, guys. It's the fish are spawning. They've been spawning for the last couple of months. See a lot of beds, a lot of empty beds and things like that. But having said that, there is some. It is starting to heat up more and more. We've got another full moon coming up here in just about a week or so. And so, where are the fish? You know, I watched the guys the other day do a lake report, and he gave a lake report from all the way down in Pelican, all the way up past North Shore and above that. And I'm not going to do that for you today. I'm just going to give you some specific things, and more importantly, I'm going to turn you on to a pattern that I want you to be looking for on the lake. Now, having said that, I don't know why the Corps of Engineers has allowed this to happen, but there's quite a few areas where we've got some water hyacinths. And the water lettuce, the real low ones, the small ones, and those are my favorite ones actually. And in particular, in a lot of these spawning areas where you got a really nice hard bottom, there's a lot of bulrushes that have these hyacinths kind of packed into them. Now, I'm not talking about big giant patches here. I'm talking about bulrush patches that maybe have 8 or 10 stalks. Now, remember, bulrush is the round. It's the round. Grass, you know, it's like a buggy whip, and you know, cattails, they're going to be a flat bladed grass, and I'm primarily talking about bulrushes right now, but this absolutely applies to cattail heads as well. Been looking around, been finding fish in scattered patches, kind of patches where you've got an area of about 50 yards. That's, you know, maybe 50 yards square, and you might have 40 patches of these bulrushes in these areas. And what will happen is you just go from one spot to the next. Now, under frontal conditions, and if you're seeing a lot of these areas, the fish are spawning in. And so a lot of times these big bass are actually in those patches underneath those hyacinths. And so pitching and flipping, just taking your time, put your power poles down, you know, toss your bait in, start on the outsides and work your way to the middle of the cover, and just, you know, get yourself a good routine. Now, you know, remember this, guys. Quick tip here: if I'm going to be pitching and flipping, one of the primary things I'm looking for is a bait that I can consistently put into a target spot and out again, in and out again, maybe 10, 15 times, and not have to adjust the soft plastics and not have to adjust the hook. Because I'm convinced. Here's one thing I'll tell you: when you get into those areas where you've got a little bit of grass, especially under those hyacinths with the with the roots that hang down from them, you're going to have a lot of little tiny crayfish and little grass shrimp and things like that the fish are eating. Now, sometimes there'll be bluegill and things like that, and shiners that are eating those things, and then bass will eat one of them things, kind of deal. But the baits are small, so as long as you're pitching kind of a fairly small bait, get it in through that stuff, fishing slow, you're going to have success, particularly if we're in a tough weather situation. Because once these fish move into spawning areas, they don't leave. If the weather goes bad on them, they don't swim back out into the lake or something like that. They're going to stay in those general areas, and they're going to take the best possible stuff around them, to kind of set up in and whatnot. So, first pattern, and by the way, this does work. This pattern works. Usually, where you're going to find this stuff is you're going to have that outside grass line. And it could be Kissimmee grass, it could be cattails, bulrushes. You're going to have that outside grass line. When you move inside of that, that's when you start to see the clumps. Now, I don't care if you're at Coot Bay. Now at Coot Bay, you can come in from the outside of Coot Bay in the lake and work all the way back in. I will tell you guys, for sure, this is a fact. There's a good bite. I know that guys are using frogs, fishing them real slow back in the real heavy shallow cover, and guys are catching some big fish. Now, I'm talking about maybe the hollow-bodied frogs. One of my favorites is a horny toad, and I use that, which is it's got the curly tails on the frog, and you swim it along, and I'll use that to maybe, a lot of times you'll find fish with that, but then I like to throw that hollow-bodied frog, whether it's a spitter or a popper frog, or I just like the Spro. That's the one I use 95% of the time for that type of bait. And you pitch in real super patient. You got to let it sit. And then move it a little bit and let it sit. Now this, while I'm talking about topwater, as you fit, we'll go back out to the patches of bulrushes / cattail heads. Like I said, it's great if you got a few hyacinths in those things, but if you're not getting a bite, or if you're approaching that head, I suggest approaching with maybe some kind of topwater bait. I know different prop baits have been working really well for a lot of people. I know when I fished with Roland Martin, he's the one that kind of first turned me on to the old like a Smithwick Devil's Horse. And there's a couple Boy Howdies, and there's all different companies have different versions of it. But the key thing is this. All right, you throw the bait out, and I'm talking about out away from. Now I'm talking about maybe a 20-yard circle around one of those reed head patches. You pitch it out, and you just twitch, and just let it sit. Just kill it. A lot of times these bigger fish. Now what's happening is they're blowing up on these baits, but what's happening is you got to understand they're spawning. And when they get out and on those beds, they disperse out of that cattail head or the bulrush head. They disperse out of that little patch, and out around it here you'll have beds. If the sun's up right and the water's clean enough, you'll see the beds. But if it's not super clean, that doesn't mean the beds aren't there, and that doesn't mean that they're not going to do their business there either. My good friend Cap Gary Long was telling me that he caught a fish here the other day, and he's pretty sure that fish wasted about I think he said maybe 100,000 baby bass on the deck of his boat. For those of you who don't understand what that is, it was peeing. No, not eggs. Peeing the other stuff all over the deck. So I said, well, I told Gary, I said, look, every time I get in your boat, you got that beautiful, such a beautiful boat. Every time I get in there, you know what? I'm not even gonna go there. Let's forget that I even said that. But anyway, it's going on. This stuff is happening. All right. You just run along the outside. Now, right now with the water levels, and I'll get into this tomorrow. It's getting to the lake level. I will tell you right now, it is getting to the place where you run in someplace. You can pretty well run into spots, but sitting down usually means you're going to kind of touch bottom a little bit, especially with the bottom of your motor and stuff like that. So you got to be careful, and then you better expect that you're going to have to get on a trolling motor to get out of those areas. So that has to be in your thinking. All right. So swimming worms. Swimming jigs, those kinds of baits work fairly slowly. Topwater frogs, those are baits that you want to be looking at. Colors don't matter, you guys. I mean, when it comes to the frogs and stuff, it really doesn't matter. Even the hard baits, if you're throwing a topwater bait, it doesn't matter. I know, guys. I talked to a fellow the other day who he actually sent me an instant message, and we went back and forth a little bit. And I'm not going to mention his name or where he was, but he was catching them on a white. Buzzbait. He was just throwing a buzzbait. He was catching them on those, in those same types of areas. Now, here's the deal. I'm just giving you the pattern right now, right? These individual stalks. Now, and by the way, if you're a shiner fisherman, You can move if you're a guide or if you're out there on your own, you can move from one stock group to the next and just disperse your shiners out around those heads outside of if there's hyacinths there, outside the hyacinths there, and Bubba's going to get paid. I'm telling you, it's a kind of a good situation. So that's the pattern right now, and you can find this water as you go up above. It's east wall, west wall, Coot Bay, all the way down. You go down next to Rita. All these places have these things, have this kind of water that I'm talking about, and that's where you can work this pattern. You go up to Harney Pond, up to North Shore. When you get around the Harney Pond area, and you go up and you get up around the corner and you're headed up further up the lake, up to the north there, there are a bunch. There's a lot of this cover in those places, and so just get in there and work it. Get in there and work it. So anyway, when you're actually doing the fishing and punching, like I said, I like to throw Senkos and whatnot, and into that kind of situation. Play by ear. Play by ear. I will give you one rigging tip about pitching and flipping a Senko. Get yourself a little weight to put in the opposite end where you put your hook. Now, you can get those little screw-in weights. Gambler makes that little screw-in weight. That works fine. You can get a little nail if it's got enough weight to it. You can stick a nail in the end of your Senko. And what happens is when you pitch it in, it wants to. You rig the hook at the top end weedless. Without a weight, and you put the weight in the bottom of the Senko, if you can imagine that. So here's the Senko, like this here. You put the weight here, and you put your hook through the top here, so that when it drops in, here's your Senko. When it drops in, the weight goes like this, and the bait kind of stands, but it goes straight down through the cover, and that's really all it takes, man. Bam! Time to get paid. Captain Dave Schneider, it's a guide's life. Guys, I got myself some gasoline. I don't recommend anybody do this, but I poured some gasoline on what has been my lack of YouTube presence over the last couple of months, and it's 2020. Things as we go on, I'm going to share some of the things that I've been through, kind of let you know. Sometimes people might be going through similar things, and and I'll tell you how what's happened to me and how I've made it through. Most of it's just been good people, good friends, loving and caring, and so here we are. Captain Dave Schneider, it's a guy's life. Happy New Year, man, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. What's your toilet?
Yeah.
Huh? What do you think?
A push button. Push button. A push it.
Yeah. What else? Can you turn the lights on?
I off now.
You got them off? Turn them on. There they are. Good job, dude. Good job, dude.